Hello and welcome, my name is Dustin. I've gone through the game files and now I'm here to answer the question, what is actually in Victoria 3 National Awakening? Priced at $10 US, National Awakening is the third immersion pack for Victoria 3. Paradox describes immersion packs as content-driven and art-heavy. They focus on a specific nation, small region, or flesh out flavor content for a specific mechanic to provide increased immersion. The mechanical content added alongside immersion packs is normally in the free patch that releases alongside them, and so will not be discussed in this video. For National Awakening, this included changes to culture, nationalism, political movement stances, and more. Another note, a decent amount of characters and events were also added in the free patch, which will not be included in the number of items added by the DLC. This immersion pack is focused on Austria primarily, but also the minor Balkan nations excluding Romania. In numbers, here's an overview of everything you get before we go into what is tied to specific nations. National Awakening adds approximately 77 characters, 11 of which have unique models, 23 journal entries, 115 events, most of which are tied to the journal entries, 3 unique interest group traits, 7 historical companies, and a unique Austrian distribution of power law for flavor content. For graphical content, you get a new Balkan building set, UI skin, a paper map, tabletop and table objects, new military clothing for a whole host of nations, winter variants of military clothing for several European nations, 6 event images, and 2 loading screens. Finally, 5 achievements are tied to owning National Awakening as well. This DLC adds very little value outside of the region it focuses on. Outside of Austria and the Balkans, you essentially only gain the possibility for a few extra agitators to show up, or a single unique interest group trait if you are playing a German nation or Norway. Aside from the graphical additions, of course, you can use the UI skin, paper map, and table objects no matter where you play. Now let's get into a breakdown of who the content is tied to. I'll go roughly from most content to least. It's possible that the absolute number of something is off by 1 or 2 if I missed something in the game files, or if something was added in a patch later on, but they should be quite accurate. Austria is the primary focus of this DLC. They get 6 journal entries, 35 events, 28 characters, 2 of which have unique models, 4 historical companies, a unique high approval petite bourgeoisie trait that is also for all German nations, a unique low approval rural folk trait that is also for all German nations, and a unique distribution of power law that is tied to one of their journal entries. Graphics-wise, Austria gets new early, middle, and late military clothing. The first company requires either Moravia or Upper Silesia, so Prussia can also form it. The second requires Dalmatia. The third requires Tyrol. The fourth one requires Moravia and has a flavored motors prestige good called Brunn-type engines. For the journal entries, Austria gets a journal entry called the Age of Metternich at the beginning of the game. It has 10 sub-goals to pursue as Metternich's agenda, determining his legacy. Journal entry named Autocracy in the Age of Liberty about neo-absolutist Austria, which triggers when Austria has eliminated its crown subjects. This represents the struggle between absolutism and constitution. Related to the dual monarchy content in the base game, this DLC adds the option to pursue a triple monarchy that includes Croatia. A dual or triple monarchy Austria can then pursue the Federal Solution journal entry, attempting to form the United States of Greater Austria, and integrate Austria's multicultural holdings directly. Going this route gives Austria's subjects a related journal entry to follow the progress as well. The Stadtstaat journal entry happens if Austria is not dual monarchy, triple monarchy, or federal and is currently democratic. It represents the rise of corporatist Austro-fascism after World War I in Austria. If the Ottomans get the Eastern Question journal entry, Austria gets a related one encouraging them to invade the Ottomans over Bosnia. Finally, the Grunderzeit journal entry is available to all German countries and encourages the rapid growth in speculation and industry during this time period that occurred in German countries, and potentially the following depression. Next up is Hungary. National Awakening gives Hungary 19 characters, 3 of which have unique models. 1 journal entry with 10 events about the Hungarian Revolution of 1848, potentially leading to an early liberalization and independence for Hungary. 1 historical company, and military clothing split into a middle version and a late version. There is also a different variant of the clothing for if Hungary is an Austrian subject or not. Hungary also has access to the National Awakening journal entry along with all other Balkan and Danubian nations. This has 7 related events and helps to increase cultural fervor and encourage the Balkan nations to achieve independence once they have the nationalism tech and enough autonomy. The unique company requires owning central Hungary and 3 states with the Pannonian Plains modifier, and has a flavored grain prestige good named Pannonian Patent Flour. Montenegro gets some unique content in this patch that attempts to make the tiny nation more playable. The DLC itself adds 5 characters, all of which have unique models. 3 journal entries, 22 events, an early military clothing set, and a late military clothing set. I will note that most of the Balkan nations share military outfit 3D assets, but with different variations. The first journal entry allows you to raid the Ottomans for money. The second is about the transition of Montenegro from a collection of Christian tribes to a Serbian nation, which also allows you to potentially acquire more land from the Ottomans. And the third is about a potential Austrian alliance and transfer of Austrian land. Montenegro also shares a journal entry with Serbia about uniting the 2 countries, can form Yugoslavia, is part of the 2 Balkan Wars journal entries, and has access to the Balkan National Awakening journal entry. Serbia gets 4 characters, 1 journal entry, 14 events, 1 historical company, and the most outfits of any nations in this DLC, being early, middle, and late military clothing, mid-game conscripts clothing, late-game monarch and field marshal clothing, and Hajduk clothing for rural folk, bandits, and some agitators. Their journal entry is about a power struggle between 2 dynasties over the throne of Serbia. They also are part of the 2 Balkan Wars journal entries, share the journal entry to unify Serbia and Montenegro, can form Yugoslavia, and have the Balkan National Awakening journal entry. Their unique company requires owning the Western Serbia state and has a flavored meat prestige good named Acorn-Fed Pork. Next is Greece. The DLC adds 14 characters, 1 of which has a unique model. 1 journal entry with 2 events about the Bavarian king of Greece and his potential downfall. A unique middle interest group trait for the industrialists, which Norway also gets if you own the DLC. Greece also gets new early, middle, and late military clothing, as well as some unique agitator and conscript outfits. For shared content, Greece is part of the 2 Balkan War journal entries and the Balkan National Awakening journal entry. Bulgaria gets some content in National Awakening as well, despite not existing at game start. They get 4 characters, 1 journal entry, 3 events, a historical company, and both middle and late military clothing. The journal entry is called Prussia of the Balkans and encourages Bulgaria to build up an army to receive some military buffs. Upon completion, you get an option to pursue a Bulgarian empire or Yugoslav nation. The latter lets you have access to the Yugoslavia formation journal entry. Russia gets a small journal entry with 1 event that encourages them to free Bulgaria from the Ottomans when the Great Eastern Crisis happens. A player who forces the Ottomans to release Bulgaria also gets the option to switch to and play as Bulgaria. The shared content they get access to is the 2 Balkan War journal entries and the Balkan National Awakening journal entry. The Bulgarian company requires owning 2 Bulgarian homeland states and has a flavored tobacco prestige good named Basma Tobacco. The Ottomans get the Great Eastern Crisis journal entry, an Ottoman version of the Montenegro raiding journal entry, 2 events, and the Bulgarian Tobacco Company if they can hold on to the Bulgarian homelands. The Great Eastern Crisis journal entry is essentially an Ottoman version of the Springtime of the Peoples that most European countries get, except with harsher penalties such as subject liberty desire. As mentioned before, Austria and Russia both get journal entries encouraging them to attack the Ottomans when the Great Eastern Crisis happens. Wallachia doesn't get any narrative content in the DLC, but Wallachia and Romania do get new early, middle, and late military clothing. Banat also gets 3 historical characters that require the DLC. Before I get into the graphical content that isn't tied to countries, here's the list of countries that get winter variants of their late military clothing when you own this DLC. Romania, Serbia, Bulgaria, Hungary, Austria, and Russia get a winter variant that only requires this DLC. France gets a winter variant that requires both National Awakening and Voice of the People. Now let's take a look at the new building set and the other graphical content that isn't tied to a specific nation. National Awakening includes a Balkans building set that is used in the Danubia, Balkans, and Anatolia regions. This means most of Austria keeps the standard European building set. The new Balkan building set is a mishmash of different 1800s architecture styles that were prevalent in Turkey and the different Balkan nations. The first thing you'll notice is the color variation. I would say the buildings are primarily orange and green from the angle we see them at, but the cities also have many smaller elements of blue, pink, red, and yellow thrown in. The port buildings in this building set are my favorite out of all the sets so far, especially the curved dock. Here are the farming, mining, and logging hubs, as well as the oil rig. The Hagia Sophia model was also redone to fit with the Balkan building set aesthetic. The UI skin added by National Awakening is also a Balkan Ottoman mixture. The frame of the screen when paused has a fabric texture with stained glass windows in the bottom corners. The headers are stone and stained glass inspired, using primarily red, black, and gold. Secondary headers and top of the screen become a fabric texture, and most of the buttons become an olive green. I'll click through the side tabs to give a general feel for the new color scheme. The lens buttons are surrounded by an intricate wood, and the expanded section is colored black with gold outlines. The paper map in National Awakening has 3 large colored collage images, one for each major ocean. They are a mix of Austrian and Balkan, with the bodies of water labeled in German. In the Pacific collage, we have a depiction of who I think is Austrian Field Marshal Radetzky in the top right, possibly some Balkan war soldiers here, and territory being taken from the Ottomans here, among other things. In the Atlantic, there is a depiction of Metternich alongside rural landscapes. Just off of South Africa is a depiction of Olympic events, and then the Indian Ocean depicts something I am not familiar with. I do think it would be cool if there was a description somewhere we could read about what is depicted on each paper map in the game. On land, there are images for various important resource locations, such as the oil rigs in Baku, cotton in Egypt, tea in Bengal, and so on. For table assets, there is a new tabletop and 4 new table objects. The tabletop is named Ottoman Tiles and includes the blue vine pattern below the wood. The new top left table object is a carved coconut gunpowder flask, complete with a pile of spilled gunpowder. In the top right, you get the option to have a tobacco pipe with a nice smoke effect and some matches. For the bottom left of the table, you get 2 cups of coffee with fancy trays, some scattered coffee beans, and a few Turkish delights. The last table object occupies the bottom right slot. It is named Sausage in Hungarian and features a cutting board with a variety of sausages as well as some pickles and peppers. Finally, the last few bits included in the DLC are 2 new loading screens and 6 new event images. That's everything locked behind owning the National Awakening DLC. As with the other Immersion Pack DLCs, almost all content outside of the targeted region was added in the free patch, and a decent amount in the region of interest was also updated or added in the free patch. This means that you will only interact with most of the DLC content if you are playing as Austria, Hungary, the Ottomans, or one of the Balkan nations. If you don't intend to play any of these countries, you will only be indirectly impacted by the DLC outside of having access to the new 3D assets and UI. I haven't played all the narrative content, so I can't give a qualitative review, but this was a quantitative overview of the content added in National Awakening. If you found this video helpful, please consider supporting the channel. Thanks for watching y'all, see you next time.